the May 10th, 2022 City Commission meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please? Or Pledge of Allegiance first, sorry. Do we have roll call?
Commissioner Budnick,
Here.
Commissioner Lenko,
Here.
Commissioner Perry,
Here.
Commissioner Schmier,
Here.
and Mayor Scott.
Here. Now's the time we'd have items that are not on the agenda. Public discussion. Uh-oh.
Did I
She's
move
ready.
quickly enough? I had to get in front. I'm Lauren Howard from 22 Oakland Park and the Historic Commission, and there are other historic commissioners here who I thought could introduce themselves. Come on, you guys. Got to do it. Tell them who you are, where you're from.
Nicholas Seams, 50 Fairwood.
There you go.
Colleen McKenna, 15 Millington.
Amber Herrick, 40 Kensington.
Lisa Wetson, 27 Oakland Park.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Spatafora, 51 Amherst.
And Jackie Huffman, 67 Wellesley.
And we have a couple other members who are at baseball games and in Palm Springs. If you don't feel as sorry for that person. So, Brad Scott was our liaison for a very long time on the Historic Commission. And he put up with a lot of home tours, put up with a lot of cleaning out the museum. He made the sign for the outside of the museum over there. Many, many projects over the years that he was our liaison. I'm sorry? Lots of editing. Oh, and editing. Editing. Pleasant Ridge then and now, and other editing. And the other thing that he did, that we all do on the Historic Commission, was work on ordering tiles. As you know, we have a tile when people their house turns 100 years old. We have tiles for the 100-year anniversary of the city. We have tiles we sell. And currently, we are about to start selling ornaments that are blue and green. During the discussions of the tiles over the years, you can see what's coming, Brett would always say we need a black tile. And when I was all the time I've been on the commission, I would throw myself around and talk about Mary Chase Stratton and how she liked blue and she liked green, and we should have blue and green, and nobody wants black tile, and Mary Chase Stratton, blah, blah. However, we just ordered these ornament tiles. And lo and behold, we could order a black tile. Of course, they don't call it that. It has some weird name.
Right.
You know, all their tiles, it's like charcoal bisque or something. Anyway, we have for you a black tile.
Oh, my
Yeah.
I'm genuinely surprised.
This one's in the shape of
Beautiful.
Isn't that good?
Oh, wow. It's great, doesn't it?
See?
That's awesome.
It's cool.
It turns out I was wrong. I really hate to say that. Don't ever tell my children. Because
goodness.
Katie and I were opening this tile. We thought, that is good looking. The scraping is good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
This is awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
you are welcome.
I am going to
That's
bless
it.
the shade of purple. Thank you.
I told Ted I'd listen to him. But the rest of you can go. You're not,
Wow.
you didn't.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Jackie.
Although we have a good meeting.
Wow. Those are crowds. Okay, having a moment.
Yeah, you guys are going to miss a lot. They're going to miss a lot. It's a good meeting. Like,
Yeah. Okay, I'm Ted Zachary from 68 Devonshire, and I'm on the Pleasant Ridge Environmental Group. And I have an idea. It's to help the environment naturally. It's going to help you, and it's going to help your pocketbook. And that idea is for me to challenge you to do something. I'm going to challenge you to grow butternut squash. I could grow more butternut squash than any of you, or even you're a combination of everybody. And naturally, I brought a visual aid so people could remember it, so make it memorable. And for those who are more optimistic,
Oh, my goodness.
this is 5.5 pounds or so. So
nice.
and I could challenge anybody else. I could grow more butternut squash pounds in my backyard than anyone else. I challenge you.
Okay.
Okay?
When is the
And-
planting season for the butternut squash? When should I plant?
Oh, like right now, I'm going to take the seeds and put them into a pot. It's almost time. Last year I used it around the 25th of the month. So to help you guys out, I know it's hard to do stuff, but I have some butternut squash seeds.
Oh, cool. Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
It is.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yay.
Yeah,
A PR seed bank would be an interesting thing to have.
Here you go.
So you can do this, but I still think I could grow more butternut squash than anybody else. Now the grand prize
Yes.
is my award-winning vegetarian vegan chili
Oh. Excellent.
featuring butternut squash.
All right.
Okay?
Well,
Excellent.
you know, we'll put that recipe on the website if it's a good one and people grow squash.
Okay. Oh, anybody? Well, if you want the squash, or if you want more seeds, just contact me. I have more seeds at home. So, any questions?
What's your email address, Ted, for people to reach you?
WPRTV@yahoo.com.
Okay, great.
That's from way back when I
It
used
is.
to be the video person. Thank you very much. Thanks for your smiles, and hope. Actually, I hope
you.
you win.
I know. This will
Thank
be
you.
interesting.
Chuck that.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye,
so
Lauren.
much. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It is cool. Well, they've set a pretty high standard, so.
Yeah,
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commission. I'm Bobby Lawrence from State Senator Marsha Bullock's office.
Yes.
Just here to say hello and let you know that we care, but also want to let you know in the constituents if anyone's having any concerns, state-related.
And less on-site. Through the pandemic, one of the things we learned was how to do that effectively.
Right.
So the good thing about Plan is they do have robust back-end IT that we can work with to get them secure access to all of the things they need to get to. Brian, if you wanted to say anything further on that or answer any
Sure.
questions?
So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. We've been working with the city for about 14 years. I've been personally working with you for about 10. In all that time, our engagement, as they were back then, were all on fixed fee arrangements. So our contract with you was for approximately 7 days a month for X thousands of dollars per month. But over time, you know, the hours that we've put in have exceeded 56 hours a month. And over time, we've gotten rid of those fixed fee arrangements because, quite frankly, they didn't work out in our favor. And so over the last 5 or 6 years, we've phased out almost all of them. And now we're to the point now where we said we have to get rid of all of them. We have to just go to hourly rates for all of our clients. Pleasant Ridge was grandfathered in for all these years because of your long tenure with us. But unfortunately, we can't maintain that any longer. Now, the hourly rate that we're proposing is a blended rate. So whether I'm doing something for you, even though I'm a partner of the firm, or one of my team members is doing something, it's the same hourly rate, no matter who it is. And that rate is significantly less than what we quote for new clients. So presently, the consultant that serves you, her name is Kelly Howie. She replaced Kelly Schimler. Both Kellys are senior consultants in our practice. For a new client, we quote them out at $160 or $165 an hour. I'm not even going to tell you what my hourly rate normally is. It's embarrassing because I'm not worth that much, but Kelly and Kelly certainly are worth the $160, $165 that we get for them. We're only asking that you pay for their time at $130 an hour. As part of the package that I gave to Jim was engagement letters from our competitors. So there are only 3 CPA firms in Metro Detroit that do this kind of work. Us, Raymond, and Maynard. Maynard's your auditor, so they can't do the work. The 2 engagement letters that I provided to Jim were from Raymond. One was from 2019, one was executed 2 months ago, and their rates are not only higher than what I'm asking for, but higher than that 165 that we would quote out. So if you were to put it out to bid, there isn't an option that would be the low cost provider. So I'm hopeful that you'll see fit to extend us at this hourly rate. Going forward, we wouldn't expect any increases other than that of inflation. And if there's ever a time where you want more or less service, we're entirely fine to ramp our time up or down to meet the city's needs. So if it does become less, then billing on an hourly basis, you'll pay less. If the need is greater, obviously you would pay more and we would be compensated for our time. So do you have any questions about our arrangement, the history of the account, anything that I can answer for you this evening?
First, thanks for all of the service you provided the city so far. It's been great. And also thank you for the lower rate that you've offered under the new terms.
Thank you. Yes, you're welcome.
Were there any other thoughts or comments?
I'm curious, what's the term of the agreement as far as duration?
It's at will, so you can end it at any time. I hope that you don't, and that 14 years goes on in perpetuity.
All right. And as far as the inflation, are the increases automatic or are they subject to mutual agreement in writing?
I believe the engagement letter says the higher of 3% or what the state allows you to increase your property taxes in any given year, which is capped at 5. Obviously,
It's 2.5.
I'm sorry, 2.5.
Or the IRM,
Okay.
whichever is greater.
So prior to the craziness that's going on right now, we haven't had greater than 3% inflation in Michigan, but 1 year in the last 25. So we would expect it to be out. Hopefully this craziness ends soon and we'd be back to normal 2.5 to 3-ish.
But just for the record, we should expect a price increase every year. Just
Yes. I mean, unless there's deflation and it goes down, I would honor that as well.
Okay, so if inflation is 0.001%, then our increase would be like 0.001%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions? All right, maybe we have a motion.
Your Honor, I move the accounting services agreement between the City of Pleasant Ridge and Plant Moran PLLC be approved.
Is there a second?
I second.
No more comments? Can we have a vote?
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
No.
And Mayor Scott?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the commission liaison reports. Commissioner Lenko.
So Ferndale Public Schools, thank you, Mr. Mayor, met April 18th. I do encourage anybody who's interested to view the videos on YouTube. They give accolades, awards, and the like. And then also on the YouTube channel is the recent, it's a fly-through of the new Lower Elementary School, which I know Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Perry were both at. I unfortunately wasn't able to join. But yeah, do you guys want to mention anything
Like to
about
say
the
anything?
event?
No, it's been a couple weeks now, so I'm trying to remember.
was supposed to be rained
a
out.
lovely
Yeah.
rainy day, but actually they got out there and all the kids were troopers, and
They
you know,
were.
they were very excited for their hard hats and to dig up some dirt, and they didn't want to stop after they got started. But it is very exciting. It's it's an exciting project that I know the school district has worked really hard on, and they're really they feel this plan will. Just be an amazing boost for our bringing younger kids into the school district too.
And it brings the building up to date,
Yeah.
to modern educational standards. And it was really nice to see the kids out there with the shovels, sort of digging up that first patch of ground. I thought they might actually make it to Australia with
Yeah,
their
they were
effort
very
in the
good.
rain. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission and DDA met on Monday, May 2nd. They welcomed 2 new commissioners, Megan Takashima and John Disbrow. The Planning Commission and DDA reappointed Tom Wilkinson to the chair position, Fred McCoy to the vice chair, and Pat Corrigan to the secretary position. The Planning Commission had a work plan discussion that included things like trees in the city, auxiliary dwelling units, as well as trying to figure out how they can address noise on Woodward 696 and I-75. The group reviewed the Huntington Woods master plan and gave their, was it an approval or just like a, all right, good job? Or
It was a thank you. And
thank you for letting us see it.
All the best.
Yeah. And the DDA reviewed the fiscal year 2023 budget recommendation and approved to move it forward to the city commission. So it's included in our budget that we'll be talking about in a little bit. And they also reviewed the Woodward streetscape update. And so that was, I think they all really enjoyed hearing about that. And it was great having the two new commissioners because they brought lots of different perspectives and ideas to the table as well. The next Planning Commission and DDA meeting should be held on Monday, July 25th. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a
Any
great
questions
meeting.
for Ms. Perry? Commissioner Perry?
Thanks.
Cool. Commissioner Schmier?
Thank you, Mayor. So let's start off with your new ornament.
I know. I am not usually surprised, and I'm genuinely still thinking about this.
I mean, it looks amazing. It looks amazing. And for everyone else, we actually are Historic is going to start selling them. I mean, if you want one now, get in touch. But we're going to start selling them probably at the end of May, so there'll be a lot of opportunity. And we have blues and greens, unfortunately not blacks, but maybe next year, because they do look great.
They do.
Tonight, actually, was the first night that the museum was open before the commission meeting, and that will continue through the summer. So anyone who can't make it on Saturdays, starting between about 6 o'clock before the commission meeting, the museum will be open. And then for our regularly scheduled Saturday, the 21st, between 10 and noon.
Great.
One other thing. If anyone is interested in participating in the garden and sanctuary tour, we are still looking for houses. So reach out.
Do you have more need on, were you saying there are more need for homes on the east side right now? Are you evening it out a little bit?
Yes. I mean, the truth is we need homes on both sides. We need more homes in general, but certainly at this point more are more on the west side. So certainly, yes, we need east side. We also need more west side.
Great.
So anyone who is interested can definitely get in touch. Should get in touch. Please get in touch.
I'd be doing a disservice to get in touch.
But you have a princess theme going on in the back.
Want
so I
to
think it'd
tour
be
Elsa
okay.
and
That'd be fine.
Anna's house.
A sanctuary.
It's a children's
It's
sanctuary.
a children's sanctuary. Oh. Now I'm going to sign you up
Whole
because
new
you're
market.
right.
Whole
Right.
like Target Market would bring
Yeah.
in.
Cool. Thanks, Katie.
Thank
Is there
you.
any questions for Katie? All right. Commissioner Budnick?
Thank you, Mayor. All right. So we met April 27th for the Rec Commission, and Shawnee's in back supporting us. We barely had a quorum, correct? Or we didn't have a quorum. So this is 2 meetings in a row. We were just scraping.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but we still had good discussion. So some items of note, and I'm going to try and bring Amanda Wall energy. Citywide garage sale is this Saturday, the 14th, so watch for maps, and signs are still on sale for $25. The pool opens on Friday, May 27th at 4 p.m. See page 8 of the Ridger for a full pool schedule.
Nice.
Memorial Day ceremony is Monday, May 30th at 9 a.m. at Memorial Park. The big old cannon will be there, loud and clear. Daddy-daughter pool night is Friday, June 3rd, and anybody interested in this, it was a great event last year. It was super fun. Everyone attending must purchase a ticket. The Synchro Show practice begins June 13th, and registration is currently open. The citywide campout is Friday, June 24th. Free to attend, and once again, you must pre-register. There's a theme We need to register. Ice Cream Social is Wednesday, July 13th. Free to attend. Must pre-register, please. The Adult Swim Meet, I think that's one Commissioner Lenko's participated in before, right?
Yep, all of them.
All right.
-1.
Yep, Wednesday, July 20th at 7 p.m. So many fun relays are going to be planned. And
a couple real events, right?
yeah. Also, working on a mother and son fun night to be paired with the daddy-daughter pool night. So Thursday, July 21st, everyone attending, please purchase a ticket. And last, teen trip to Cedar Point is Friday, August 12th for middle school and older. And as always, if you have questions, give the rec department a buzz. They're always happy to help. Craig and Shawnee are always running the fort, ready to help. So register online, or you can pay with cash or check in the office during regular business hours.
Cool. That's a lot going on.
A lot. It's fun. This is the rec department's. Yeah, this is their Super Bowl.
time.
Right.
That's
This
right.
is Super Bowl for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the garage sale this weekend is like a crazy event.
Yeah.
Like the whole city is just nuts. So it'll be very fun.
Yep.
So much.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mayor.
All right, I think we'll move on to governmental reports.
Evening. I think I'm the only one here because the fire chief was on the radio. Shortly, you heard sirens as the door opened. She was at a scene of an accident. So, having said that, good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Attorney Need, residents, distinguished guests, welcome. You stole part of my thunder on the Memorial Day, but I'll get back to that. On Tuesday, May 3rd, we held the Coffee with the Cop at the Rec Center. We had a nice turnout. Many of you were there and attended. Many of the residents had a chance to find out a lot about the police department, questions that they have had for years, and express concerns that they had. It seemed like almost everything related to traffic and noise related, as many of you heard. Know that as related to that, the radar trailer will go out tomorrow. It'll be placed strategically, like we talked, on everybody's street, probably twice throughout the season through probably October. So that'll help address, but invite everybody that has concerns. You can email or call, and we try to get everywhere. We can't be everywhere 24/7, but we will take your concerns under consideration and try to do enforcement action. Warmer weather, I'm sure everybody's seen. A little more distracted driving. Radios are loud, windows are down, people are not paying attention as much. So
That's all you.
It's all what?
That's it. Your music is loud.
It's mine. We try not to play it over the speaker, but if a good song comes on and you feel compelled, we want everybody to enjoy.
Right.
So, back to, Shawnee reminded me now, with the citywide garage sale, remind everybody, obviously non-residents that won't be watching, but for residents, parking is still going to be enforced. One side of the street, be considerate of other people, try not to block people's driveways if you're attending somebody else's so they can get in and out, have egress. Just be considerate of others. It is a big event and a lot of people attend. It draws a big crowd. So we have people on staff to help with that as well. So if there's any problems, feel free to contact the police department as well. Commissioner Budnick touched on the Memorial Day ceremony. Again, it's May 30th, 9 a.m. As usual, the Civil War canon, the highlight, will begin and end the ceremony. For the first time, 2 years, the band and the Boy Scouts will be attending and assist in the ceremony. We haven't had that because of COVID restrictions. Dignitaries are invited and everything, and I encourage everybody that is in town, if you are in town and not away, we would like to see you there and attend. It's a nice little ceremony that helps celebrate the real meaning of Memorial Day. And and I didn't bring gifts, but it's a hard act to follow. But if everybody wants to give a driver's license or something, I can issue traffic citations to each and every one if you would like a parting gift. So I'd be happy to.
Or a giver.
I think 10 more and I get a toaster. So I'm just kidding. There's no quota or anything like that. So.
May I ask?
Sure.
Was there a motorcycle accident yesterday on Woodward? Do you know? I guess I just wanted to bring awareness to, like, there was a huge backup yesterday at rush
I was here
hour.
from 7 to 7 yesterday. It wasn't in our town.
No, it was
because-
Huntington Woods. It was right on the other side.
There's accidents every day.
I don't know if there's anything that got back.
I don't
that
have
way,
any. I don't have any details on that. I'm not familiar with that one.
I'm seeing more cyclists and motorcyclists out there too. So if anybody's listening,
The warmer weather brings it.
Look twice.
And they're loud for a reason.
Yep.
But sometimes, like even with the police cars, the lights, the noise is what people are attracted to. Like hence the sirens and stuff. But motorcycles are loud for a reason. But beware of that. But hence, like the coming bike lane, bicyclists. I saw as I was sitting back here while the meeting's going on, rollerbladers and skateboarders and stuff. So be mindful of that. I mean, it's you're in a car. They're basically a pedestrian. It's, take your time. Beware of everybody's surroundings and environment. Okay. Sorry I didn't have any info, but
No.
I could check.
And I know that was Huntington Woods, but just everybody's driving, the big trucks these days. And
Right.
I don't know. They're less friendly physically towards pedestrians and
Yes.
cyclists and motorcyclists. So
Yes.
Everybody's back out now. It's warm.
Okay. Nothing else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other governmental reports tonight? I guess not. I think we'll go on to the consent agenda. One item I'll point out on the agenda, June 3rd is National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I'm wearing an orange shirt for that reason. It's Wear Orange Day, June 3rd. I don't usually wear orange, but I had one in the closet. And if you're a guy, realize you can't just go out on June 2nd and look for an orange shirt unless you maybe go to Bass Pro Shop or something. So get online, get your orange shirt ordered for June 3rd. It's a great, just to make everyone aware of the fact that 44,000 people lose their lives in America every year to guns. I'm not personally against guns, but there is a lot that happens around guns. There's suicide and whatnot. And we want people to just be aware of what's happening in their homes, proper usage, training, and ownership. So recognize that on June 3rd. Could I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I move that the consent agenda be approved.
Support. Any comments? Take a vote, please.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
The motion carries.
All right.
All right. Let's see. Item number 9 is public hearings for our millage rates and our combined city budgets. Anything to add to that?
Always.
Always.
In your packet are the public hearing draft of the proposed fiscal year 23 city budget, including the proposed fiscal year 23 millage rates. We'll run through, like we always do, with an overview of millage rates, some financial trends for the city. It's a 3-year budget, so we always project out 2 years. You're only adopting fiscal year 23, but the projections are there to help plan for future expenses and those other items. So the process is tonight to set the public hearing for June 14th. The fiscal year 23 budget is available for review on the website. It's in the quick links at the top of the website. Action is taken on the budget in June, and then it becomes effective July 1 of this year. So the headline, as we've been really kind of discussing this for the last 7 or 8 months now pretty intensively, the total millage rate in 2021 was 21.3110 mils. Proposed for fiscal year 23, that'd be 21.9997 mils. So that's an increase of about 0.7 mils. These are the components that go into that total overall millage rate. So one of the things you'll see is that the water infrastructure millage is proposed at 1.6987 mils, following the CAC's recommendation. That generates a third of the revenue for the water infrastructure project. The Parks Improvement millage, the commission decided to reduce that from 0.6557 in the current year to 0.1290 mils for fiscal year 23. So that's a reduction of about 0.52 mils. And then the remaining mills, were reduced by 0.4833 by Headley. So it's a net increase of 0.6887 mils. The revenue to replace what the Parks millage would have generated will be provided by the Parks Endowment Fund. So that will transfer over to the remainder SCAF fund, which served as the financing source for the Gainsborough Park project. So we have 3 more years on that millage. So over the course of those 3 years, we'll collect about 0.129. So that'll get Headley down probably to 0.12 or 0.11 mils over the coming years, and then the remainder of that revenue will be provided by the endowment fund in lieu of doing new capital projects. So that's one way that the City Commission really strove to reduce the impact of that millage. So 3.5 mils is what was approved by the voters, but the actual increase is less than 0.7 mils for next year.
Impressive.
Yeah. So you can see here the long-term trends for the total city millage rate. So there's a small bump this year, but much less than it could have been. The total millage rate for the city, so when you pay your property taxes, about 47% of those go to the city. The other 53% go to all of the other taxing jurisdictions, the largest of which is the Ferndale School District, and then the county collects a little less than 10%, the intermediate school district at 7%, and then you have SMART, the community colleges, and then the zoo, the DIA, the county parks and recreation. Those all make up that other 2%. So we always benchmark our local millage rate, and you can see here where we fall in comparison to other communities, and this is just the local portion. This doesn't include the county or all those other taxing jurisdictions. School districts have different millage rates as well, so that really impacts the bottom line for each other community, but this is what cities in Oakland County are collecting, so you can see where we fall compared to our neighbors and other communities in the county. And another way of looking at that is per capita property tax revenue. So rather than a millage rate, what is everyone collecting per person? To give you a sense of what cities are operating on. And the thing you'll see is that we kind of fall in a cluster with Huntington Woods, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Birmingham in terms of our per capita property tax revenue. And then there's a jump down to Southfield and Royal Oak. And then Bloomfield Hills is just out there on their own. Part of that's explained by the fact that our per capita total revenue is not as high. We're really in line with the overall trend. So the reason is when you look here, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, Huntington Woods, and Pleasant Ridge are almost wholly residential. And in most communities, revenue generated by commercial and industrial development subsidizes the cost that it takes to serve residential development. So when you have almost all residential, the residents bear a higher cost of providing public services compared to some of the other communities. When you do total revenue, you can see that we're not really that much different than most communities in the county, except Bloomfield Hills, who again. So revenue by source, adjusted for inflation over time, you can see the trends in where our revenues have come from, and you can also see very clearly the impact of the 2008 recession on city revenues. And over time, generally, we're hovering around that $3.25 million a year general fund revenue, with some years higher, some years lower, of course. When you look at the percentage of general fund revenue by source, probably the biggest thing that is highlighted here is the decline in revenue sharing as a component of our revenue versus local property tax. And as the state reduced revenue sharing really from that mid-'80s until the mid-2000s, that caused a lot of local communities to have to reach into our own pockets to replace what was made. So you can see those are the lines that are the bounds of the what revenue sharing provided to us in revenue in fiscal year '86, and how we've had to increase our property tax collections and how that revenue sharing is a much smaller percentage now. And again, this is another way of showing that same information. If you adjust it for inflation, The state was providing almost $300,000 of shared revenue in 1986 on a nominal basis. And when you adjust that for inflation, that's $650,000 a year. Whereas last year it was about $300,000 because of some of the COVID relief money that was allocated out by the state. But that $650,000 will be more than double what we receive now, and that makes a big difference when you have that every single year, that loss. Property values, again, you can see the orange line is our assessed property values, and then the blue line is taxable, and this is where Prop A comes in. As assessed values increase, taxable value increases are capped to the rate of inflation. So over time, you build up that gap. You can see in 2008, 9, and 10, that gap closed significantly with the steep decline in property values. And when you adjust that for inflation over time, you can see that the ongoing loss, the ongoing impact of that 2008 recession. You can lose as much taxable value as the market has in any given year, but once property values start going up again, you're limited by Prop A and Headley to those inflationary increases. So it sets you down a step on the staircase. And this is why we, in 2014, had to pass some supplemental millages to make up that gap. Our taxable values would be well over $200,000 this year if it weren't for that loss. So there's an ongoing impact from that. And again, it took us on an inflation-adjusted basis 12 years to get back to the level we were at in 2008. So when we look at expenses for the city, you can see again, for our total per capita expenses, we operate like a normal city. We're in the middle of the pack for our yearly total expenses. And this is for everything. This is for water, this is for general fund, this is for all of the supplemental enterprise funds and self-supporting funds. On a per capita revenue, again, that was the same one that we showed earlier, just to give you some comparison. And why is there that gap in terms of revenue? It's because we've started to sock away money for the water infrastructure project. So not doing a big water infrastructure project this year, but starting to build that fund balance to be able to do those creates a little bit of a gap there. So what is it that we value? The city's budget always tells you what its priorities are. And when you look at police spending per capita, it's clear that we value our police department. And as a small community, it's going to be more costly. A police car costs the same amount whether you have 2,500 residents or 50,000 residents, and we have to maintain 4 police cars. So it's probably a higher ratio of cars to residents than larger departments. So there's a lot of structural costs which are higher for us, but we also do value our police and make sure that we have more than adequate staffing. We're up to 7 full-time police officers now, so that's a good thing. Fire spending, and I see the chief was here, but when you look at fire spending, we're on the lower end. We have a good relationship with Ferndale, and it works very well for us. When you look at public safety, so this is everything. This is police and fire. We are right next to average in terms of what we spend per capita. Parks and programming. Huntington Woods and Pleasant Ridge, it's expensive to operate your own pool. Particularly as a small community. So this is one of the things that we prioritize. We taxed ourselves to provide these amenities in the 2000s, and this flows through in the budget. Some good news on the pension funded level. We've finally seen some increase in our funding level after concentrating on this and spending a lot of extra money trying to catch up to make sure that we have adequate funding levels. In 2017, the voters approved the police pension millage. MERS has reduced their expectations a couple of times since 2015, which has the effect of lowering our funded level as they increase life expectancy assumptions and they decrease market return assumptions. That has the impact of lowering our funded level. So we've been able to maintain as we've started to accelerate our contributions. But at the same time, that's been, in the past few years, been offset by those assumption changes. But last year, we did see an increase from 53 to 56%. And as we continue to pre-fund and try to catch up and get back to a fully funded pension, we're starting to make some progress. So for the coming year, the major story is starting on the water infrastructure project. We have Kensington slated to be replaced, the water main, in fiscal year 23. We don't have a schedule for that yet because we did receive the federal earmark. So now we're on federal contracting timelines and guidelines. So we have to get word from the federal government still on what those are. So we're in a little bit of a holding pattern, but the plan is to get that done. Engineering is nearly completed and we'll be in permitting for that soon. And then doing other things like buying a new police car. And then I think the other main project we're doing this year is looking at putting in a backup generator at Four Ridge, so that facility can be available to us as a cooling center in the summer. We know with what we've experienced in recent years that it'll be a benefit to be able to continue to run the air conditioning when power's out. So that's our main community investment project for the coming year. So the ask tonight is to schedule the public hearing for the June meeting, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or discussion you have on the proposed fiscal year 23 budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Mayor, I don't have a question, but I do have just a couple observations, if I could.
Yes, please.
Number one, the reduction of 0.52 mils. This was something we all discussed and that I felt pretty strongly about it. It's been a tough pill to swallow with the water infrastructure. And so I think this was a way to show a fiscal responsibility to our residents and to reduce some of the impact on that. And as much as I value parks and in all those improvements, because I've seen what that's done to our community, and it, as a comparison, looking at who we are kind of toe and toe with in regard to recreation and parks, is Huntington Woods. If you take a drive through Huntington Woods, look at their parks, take a drive through PR, and observe ours, there's a vast difference. And I know Shawnee and Greg do a heck of a job with all the programming that we have, so we're very fortunate. And I just think that even with all this, we were still able to reduce the impact to residents, and that's something that I'm proud of. And then I hope residents, appreciate that obligation. So,
Yes, thanks.
that's all I have.
To piggyback, Mayor, on what Commissioner Budnick said, and I think it is, I think it's exciting. It feels very actually stabilizing also for the city that we're able to use the Park Endowment Fund and how that has really become this really powerful tool over the past, few years as that's, been developed, and that what the investment committee's done and everything. And that is a really, I think it's an important asset that we all really benefit from, and allowed us to cut back that parks millage. So thank you very much on that.
Yes, and thanks again to the CAC for providing us the recommendation. We've accepted it as they've provided it to us, essentially. I know there was some discussion on adjusting the levers a little bit by all of us. Maybe we've all had a little bit of different opinion about that, but the recommendation just makes sense. It's logical, it's easy to explain, and I think it recognized everyone in the community. So thanks again for participating, and it's in the budget. Thanks.
Thank you.
May we have a motion?
Yeah, Your Honor, I move.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to move, but yeah. I move a public hearing be established for Tuesday, June 14th at 7:30 p.m. to solicit comments on the proposed fiscal year 22-23 millage rates and the proposed fiscal year 22-23 combined city budgets.
I second.
Any other comments? May we have a vote?
Commissioner Lenko?
Yep.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes,
Yes, the motion carries.
thank you. Thanks for the presentation.
Yes,
That
thank you
is
very much for the presentation.
It is really fun to look at it in these different ways, like how we look at it through all the fun charts and graphs, but then also like, the workshop with the numbers and everything were, it was very helpful. And all the questions were great that everybody brought to the table.
I think that's the Mayor Metzger honorary annual charts.
Right.
Hope he's watching.
So many, they're very colorful, very nice.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's talk about the utility bill rates.
Yes. So this is part 2 of related to the CAC recommendation. These are rates to be adopted by resolution. The proposed fiscal year 23 rates are a ready-to-serve charge of $44.07 per bill, a combined usage rate of $81.50 per bill, an infrastructure charge of 77 cents per front foot per bill. So that's the width of each property at the street in feet times 77 cents. And that is capped at 100 feet. So if your lot is wider than 100 feet, it's capped at 100 feet. I think it's about 30 lots in the city that are wider than 100 feet. And that's something that the CAC recommended we do to address that outlier issue. The garbage pickup fee of $25.49 per bill, and then the ERU stormwater fee of $52.40 per bill. So notable changes, the ready-to-serve charge 2 years ago was $42.50. So with just rate of inflation, we're going back to that plus 2 years of inflation, actually a little less than 2 years of inflation. Last year, the combined usage rate was $106.15, $106 and change. So that's being reduced back down as the funding for water infrastructure is moved out of the usage rate and into these other buckets. The infrastructure charge is new. The garbage pickup fee is related to the cost of service for picking up garbage. So there have been some fuel cost escalators that are built into those contracts. So we've seen higher than what the city's inflation rate is, closer to what CPIU and what you're seeing the headline inflation rate lately is. And then the stormwater fee, that's again a direct pass-through of what GWK bills us to charge and run the GWK combined sewage overflow facility. More information about the water infrastructure project is available on the website. And then the CAC final report and all of the material that they looked at is also available at the following links. So inputs are wholesale and supplier cost increases. Water is up 3.2%, sewage treatment is up 3.6%, and then stormwater treatment is up 4.1%. So these are things that get plugged in and we have to pass through. To give you a sense of what makes up the water fund budget, and this is taking out that water infrastructure project. This is the normal operating items. So the cost of wholesale water and sewer treatment is 55% of the water fund budget. So that's just bills we get and then bills we pay. 20% is water and sewer operations and maintenance. This is our DPW contract now with the Water Resources Commissioner, the sewer televising and cleaning and lining projects that we've been doing. All of those things fall into this 20%. Services, so engineering costs, IT costs, insurance, utilities, all of those are about 12%. Paying off GWK debt from the 90s where they issued bonds to build that facility is 7%, and then staff costs are 6% for the water fund. So this year, from year to year, the average water user will see a 7.4% decrease in their annual utility bill costs. Of course, the new millage phasing in, increased property tax costs, but from a utility bill perspective, utility billing costs will be about 7.4% for the average user. Now, if you use more or less water, obviously that's going to change for you.
Or own a ranch home.
Or own a ranch home. Correct. So again, the water infrastructure funding, each one of these components is raising about $304,000 towards that water infrastructure project. And we talked about Kensington. We are applying for drinking water state revolving loan fund funding for the rest of the water infrastructure projects. That's about $24 million of project cost. There will be a public hearing at the City Commission meeting in June on the project plan for that. We have to hold a public hearing on that project plan as part of the state's application process. That plan stays valid for 5 years, so we can apply again in future years if we're not successful gaining funding this year. So this year there was about $250 million, and that includes all of the federal infrastructure money that we're receiving from the federal government for water infrastructure is being allocated by the federal government to the state drinking water revolving loan funds. So this year that $250 million that the state has includes that infrastructure funding from the federal government. And the state received $1.1 billion of requests. So there's over 4 times as much demand for this money as there is money available. So it's very, very, very competitive. I don't want to, understate the challenge in getting that funding. So we're working on our application, and we think we have, we've obtained every point we can, and we've worked with Eagle to increase our scoring, actually. But the state also allocated some supplemental funding through Senate Bill 565. So I think there was an extra $750 million that the state is taking from some of the other COVID relief funding and allocating it to the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. It's uncertain whether that will be made available this year or next year. So the key thing to keep in mind is when that $750 million hits and expands the size of the pie, the amount of money that the state has to distribute, that will be a good chance to obtain and win some of that funding. So with doing the project plan and having that valid for 5 years, we'll keep applying for this funding as we can. It won't set us behind schedule because on our pay-as-we-go plan, Kensington, Oakdale, Wellesley, a lot of these early projects are 2 years worth of revenue. So we have to do a project and then save capital and then do a project. It's $1.5, $1.6 million to do those streets because they're long and there's a lot of service lines attached to those streets. Kensington has over 80 homes. Oakdale is similar. Wellesley is similar. Some of the other streets in town have 20 or 30 homes. So there's a big cost difference between projects. So we front-loaded some of these big these streets that have a lot of service lines because we have to replace 5% of our service lines every year. So it's important that we get out to a lead and build up, get ahead of schedule on that lead service line replacement. And that's all I have on the utility rates. So there's a motion to approve the resolution in your packet, setting the utility rates for fiscal year 23.
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Thank you for working. I know with the Eagle team that there's like a new team, so it's been sort of a lot more interaction and work with that team. So thank you for diving in with them and helping move that conversation forward, hopefully.
Hopefully. Any other questions? Anything from? All right. Let's have a motion.
Your Honor, I move that the resolution regarding the 2022-2023 utility bill rates be adopted.
Second. Any other comment? A vote?
Like you said, thank you to the CAC for all the work they did and for what the staff did to help make that happen, and our facilitator. It was a great conversation.
It really was.
And like they said, if everybody's not a little bit unhappy.
Right. It's not taxes if there's not a little bit of unhappiness.
That's right.
May we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Oops, sorry, I said it for you. I said it out of order.
2 votes today.
Yes. The motion carries. All right, we're on to the topic about the SkyMint marijuana license application. Jim?
Yeah, I just have a few things. SkyMint submitted their application in, I think it was November or December of 2021, and we've been working on getting that application to a point where it meets all of the, or it addresses all of the ordinance requirements, so we can bring it to you for consideration. I would like to just highlight a few things by way of background and context.
Sure.
And then I'm going to hand it over to the SkyMint team to introduce themselves and run through their application. So where is this located at? You'll see here, this is Woodward, and they are in the, and I didn't bring my pointer, so I can't highlight this out, but the white roofed building is the location. It's the former Vogue Vintage space. So it's in between Oak Ridge and Woodward Heights. It's directly north of the Hertz car rental location. Zooming in a little bit, you can see here that the orange is the boundary of where the marijuana license would be located and where that building, where the use would be located. The blue sites are related to ownership in some way, and we'll handle some of the parking as proposed for the site. So this is the building as you're driving down the street. What it looks like today. You can see the canopy there on the right where Hertz is, and then the facility would be in the white building in the middle there. So these are the renderings for the facade elevation. You can see the sort of vertical windows on the small part. That's proposed to be office space for the use, not related to retail sales. And then the main part of the building is in the middle. And then on the left, you see the site plan. And one of the things that's proposed in the application is to remove part of the building in order to meet the separation requirements, but that also provides for on-site parking for the use, which is, of course, a concern for this type of use in Woodward. And just to put parking in context, because this is something that I've been in discussion with the applicant quite a bit, including them providing some parking studies, which are in the application and in the city commission packet. But when you look at usable parking spaces, this is the number of parking spaces per usable square foot. And what you see is of some of the comparison sites, which are close by, this site is providing effectively double the amount of parking that Liv has, for instance. Liv has 1 parking space for every 144 square feet. This one has 72. I mean, it's comparable to some of the 9 Mile Ferndale sites, Nature's Remedy and Crucial. But this, again, just puts some context around the parking provision in terms of number of spaces that have been provided, because that is clearly a concern. So I'll just leave this one up. We can flip back to the other ones to refer to if necessary as the discussion proceeds. But at this point, I'd like for us to turn it over to the applicant for them to present what they'd like to present to you, and then to give the commission a chance to discuss with the applicant how we proceed from here.
Thank you very much.
All right.
There.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Mayor. How you doing? Thank
Good.
you so much, and thank you for that wonderful presentation, Mr. City Manager. Nathan Kark, Director of Government Affairs with Skyman Brands. First off, thanks again for having us tonight. I was already really excited on behalf of our company to come here this evening, but, you know, just feeling that what you called Amanda Wall energy even makes us more excited, I think. You know, we're a socially conscious company that wants to come into communities and help elevate those communities, which I hope you find is true if we're awarded a license here. And it's really exciting to see energized public officials and energized residents, because I think that's a good fit for us. That's a place that we can plug in and really feel at home. So Sky Mint is one of the largest vertically integrated cannabis companies in the state, which means that we do everything from seed to sale, which gives us a tremendous amount of quality control and gives us the ability to bring top quality products into communities that we enter. So we are in close to 20 communities right now. We've been well received in all of those communities, proven to be operating responsibility, no odor complaints. You know, we try to fit in with all of the unique needs of every community that we enter into. And I'll just say that we're excited about hopefully doing the same here tonight. So we're happy to take any questions you've got. I've got our consultant, Peter Grace, here as well this evening. So hopefully we can take on anything you guys might be curious about.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Were there questions for them?
Yeah.
Please.
It's okay, Mayor. Let's start. How did you decide on Pleasant Ridge?
So right now what we're doing is we're a Michigan-based company right now, and we've been looking for opportunities in Michigan. There's a wonderful community vibe around here, which, like I said, I think we fit in quite a bit with. You know, I get excited when I see a history museum out there. There's also, from a retail standpoint, just a really great population center around here, which we do really well in. We found a great opportunity at this property. When we come into communities, we like to take properties that maybe aren't open, vacant properties, potentially dilapidated properties. We like to breathe some life into them. So we found this opportunity and we thought that was a great fit.
What do you know about Pleasant Ridge?
So Pleasant Ridge, I mean, there's activity around here. You've got the zoo just to the north. I've been there a number of times. It's always been just, it's a community center kind of community that takes care of itself. I notice it's very socially conscious as well, which if you talk, and I wish we had our CEO here tonight, it's a kind of community where it gives us a good opportunity. I mean, we can bring great jobs here. We're proposing 12 right now. We'd hire locally. And it's a community that I think we'd have a good time trying to get individuals to contribute to what we're going to do.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
What impacts can residents expect?
So it all starts right now, and even back to when we first started working with Jim. Every single community that we enter has unique considerations. I usually give the state of Michigan a little bit of grief over. I think they took the easy road when it comes to regulating cannabis establishments, and the really complicated stuff comes down to a local level. So we try to give our relationships that we build that same kind of due care. I'll make sure that everyone's got my contact information this evening. If you've ever got questions, if we're awarded a license later down the line or tonight, I want to have a dialogue. So that's step one. We've already reached out to a couple of community organizations, the Community Foundation and the Garden Club, trying to get some good discussions going right now. And I think that's one of those things that just grows. Additionally, every single one of our employees has 2 paid days off just for community involvement. We go into communities and we do trash drives, we do food shelf drives, and also just working with local chambers of commerce, local leaders like yourself, and trying to figure out ways that we can plug in. So we've got kind of a template that we go to in every other community, just trying to get involved, sniffing out those opportunities. But, I can say if we're awarded a license here, I would expect a conversation and I would look forward to it, and we would try to figure out what kind of opportunities we could bring.
How's the reception from the Garden Club?
Kind of quiet, actually, unfortunately. I wish we would have gotten a response from them. And one of those things that, hopefully we can pick your brain about maybe trying to engage that.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What made you choose this particular spot?
So I'm going to turn that over to Peter. Sure. He's actually representing the property owner on this one.
Hi, everyone. So this location was very attractive to Skyman. Obviously, I'm working as a consultant for them. The ability to be on Woodward, it's just south. It neighbors Ferndale. Like Nathan said, this is a very vibrant community. There's a lot of rooftops. There's a lot of good activity in terms of its residents. It's something that Skyman kind of prides itself on, entering into communities that it knows, hopefully, that it can be welcomed. This specific building, with the way that we've proposed, would honestly breathe a lot of life into this. It would potentially, in our mind, kind of become a flagship of kind of like a Skyman store. Obviously, we understand it. We've been working with Jim that Woodward is a busy street. We've tried our very best to include as many different opportunities for parking. You'll see that we've worked to get parking leases for the 10 parking spots to the south. Additionally, the 5 parking spaces at the parcel to the north, in addition to the 10. There's also, although it doesn't count towards the parking, the 2 on-street parking that's along Woodward. You'll see in your packet materials, we've included 2 independent parking studies that have both pretty much come in line in terms of the number of parking spaces. I think both reports said between 10 and 14, and like Jim mentioned, we're proposing 25 here. So attractiveness in terms of curb appeal on Woodward, it's a building that we feel that we can really revamp and kind of create that modern look that the other Skyman stores have.
What type of volume do you expect, and how did you come to that number?
I think if Nathan, if you want to handle the
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
one. Sorry, we kind of just I'm more on the property. and he's more
No
on the-
problem.
So as far as volume, it depends on location and, just best estimates. What we're looking at is probably close to a couple hundred customers a day is what we're thinking. That tends to line up, and that's maybe just a little generous too, because we like to think optimistically. I hope that answers the question. I think that's probably just an estimate, And when we come into a community, like I said, we're going to be hiring about 12 people right off the bat. That's figuring about that type of volume. So if there is more, we'd potentially be hiring more from the community as well.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the what you're showing to plan and try to accommodate what this type of business would bring. The police chief mentioned traffic earlier, and we're talking about it now, so I think it's kind of fitting. I guess how would you work to go through conflict resolution with PR residents if this were awarded, and what can we kind of expect if or when something could arise?
Yeah, so a lot of different avenues there, and that's one of those things that we can kind of evolve and grow together. I mean, we are far exceeding parking requirements, and that's something that we're excited to be able to do because we're optimistic. Like I said, we're excited to bring quite a bit of customers in. We are very conscious of that traffic. But as far as conflict resolution, again, I want everyone to have my contact information. I can be your point of contact if you're hearing anything from residents. We'll also make sure that manager access contact information is available as well. So if there are issues, I want to make sure there's opportunities for those issues to be communicated. And if you've got any other ideas down the line too, I would absolutely welcome those.
I can add to that if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've also included with our application, we worked with Jim. It's a local operations management agreement. We've outlined a few of those issues, and we've put in the specific remedies that the city can seek. Obviously, one of them is, revoking the license and taking it away. I believe under the other attestations that we signed, under the ordinance itself, you have the ability to do that. So, as Nathan mentioned, we're open to obviously working with the commission, and any complaints that come your way would hopefully come our way first, and then we can address those. But ultimately, that operations agreement we stand by, and we would hope that you guys hold our feet to the fire in terms of keeping up with those.
I can appreciate that. Yeah, our community, as you've seen a little insight into it, it's a very unique place, and so I'm very cognizant of that and very protective of that. So, if you're wondering the impetus of a lot of these questions, it really revolves around that. Another one that came to mind, you mentioned elevate the community. Other than the THC aspect of elevating people, how and you mentioned also the garden club and the foundation. What else can we expect?
Well, it depends. It depends on the community and what those individual needs are. I mean, I can say, we're in one community where we participate in sponsoring kind of a project that honors graduating seniors every year. We come into some communities, we start talking about scholarship opportunities, job fairs, incubation projects, things of that nature that can really just create opportunity for people. The jobs that we offer, I mean, first off, I'll just say our company's a little over 700 employees right now. We're building out 184,000 square foot cultivation and processing facility as well. We anticipate hiring another 200 to 250 individuals within the next year. So we're going to be needing folks to work for us. That's one of those things where we've got excellent paying jobs, excellent benefits due to federal banking laws. I mean, we've bent over backwards to fund our own 401k for employees that just tries to align us with everyone else, and then go above and beyond as far as hourly rate as well. Elevating communities. I mean, it's something that we come in, we invest millions of dollars into a facility. We try to bring aesthetics to a local community. We try to bring a showpiece, like Peter said. And we want people to come visit us. We want people to learn about cannabis. We want people to learn about what cannabis can do for communities. Our CEO, I know I mentioned him earlier, Jeff Radway, he used to work in international retail. And he was tremendously frustrated with all of the overseas jobs that he was doing. And he wanted to do something here in Michigan, we're based in Ann Arbor, that brings those jobs here. And every single store that we look at, we really focus on bringing those jobs to Michigan. And then using those jobs to go and give excellent paying wages, which can get reinvested back into the community development and reinvestment kind of components there. I could talk about this for a long time, but there's a ton of opportunities there that I don't think every single community fully uses and leverages when it comes to having a retailer from the cannabis industry in. Some communities give a license and they kind of say, okay, great, don't cause problems. And they find out that for the most part, there's no problems associated with having regulated, tested, tracked cannabis in a community. But I'd like to see more communities have a conversation with us. And you're probably sick of me saying, let's have a conversation. But I think that's really where the benefits come from, is in the conversation, establishing a relationship, and then seeing what we can really do to help you guys. I mean, you're the decision makers here. We want to be a good corporate citizen that participates. So that's a pretty big part of it right there as well.
How long have you been in your role?
About a year.
Okay. I think relationships are super important. And, that's something that if, you're here for a year that transitions happen. I understand that, but that's something that, I think if this was something we were moving forward with, that would be important to me, that there was an open line. Because there are bigger and better, and you move up and things happen. So, that's on my mind, absolutely. If you were me, what do PR, residents need to know about your organization?
I would actually just say, come in, check us out, when we're potentially opened. I know as public officials, you hear a lot on both sides of this. There's residents that want to have regulated cannabis in the community, and there's many that don't. But I find a lot of those that don't have some very deep-rooted misconceptions, and I respect them. And I'm always happy to have conversations with people who, have understood what has become kind of the norm with cannabis over the last 100 years. When you kind of start to progress into where we are today, where there's some negative stigma around it. Gateway drug, Class 1 regulated, prohibited federal offense. But we all need to keep in mind that this plant has been around for over 5,000 years for its medicinal components. Our customers, I've not heard of too many issues with them in communities. What we do is we come into communities, we keep the cannabis in an area where anyone who should not be seeing it doesn't see it. Anyone who shouldn't be buying it doesn't buy it. If anything, what we're doing is we're coming into communities and we're making it a safer process. I mean, there's already cannabis in the community right now. It's cannabis that's not safe, it's not tested, it's not regulated necessarily. And we bring that into the community. We don't sell to children. We don't let children into the store. Children can't even see the product. So I think that's where you start with residents right there. You just put them at ease that this is not maybe such a bad thing that you're thinking of. This is actually a good thing for communities. I mean, if we come into communities and offer regulated cannabis products, law enforcement can go and hopefully goes and cracks down on the unregulated cannabis products that are out there. So you see a decline in that. You also see a lot of a decline when regulated cannabis comes into communities in opioid usage. There's cannabis products available for their medicinal qualities. And people find that a lot of assistance with that, anxiety issues, PTSD, several other conditions as well. So we do bring a lot to the community. It's this education side of things. And if you've got residents that want to have open houses, I'm happy to come in and chat with them. Anybody in the community, I can come in an instant.
Appreciate that. And Mayor, I only have two more.
Oh, no problem.
I promise.
You've hit half of mine, so.
Only half? I can do better. But what would you say is the average transaction time at one of your facilities?
So I will say, our retail team comes from Urban Outfitters. They've designed beautiful stores. It's a Scandinavian barn look is what we're going for, which is just a very warm, inviting atmosphere. I love hanging out in there, but, I would say most customers come in despite having, really nice looking things to look at, fancy spaces to hang out. It's 10, 15 minutes, I would say at most. People usually know what they're going for. They go in, they get it. We've got educated staff to help them find that. There's digital tutorials and resources all over the store as well. So, if they are curious, they might stay a little bit longer, but for the most part, people know what they want.
Thank you. And last, you mentioned very few conflicts or very few issues. I'm genuinely curious what those few issues are.
So the issues that come up, and I have extensive conversations with our security team on this, really, I think the number one thing is car accidents in our parking lot. As far as just, people that might not even be shopping there. They come in, they're curious, and I think those are normal business issues. Parking lots always have stuff like that. So that's one thing. We don't get vandalism because we've got security cameras everywhere. I was actually in one of our stores and the store manager was cracking his back or something, and then our security team came over the radio and just said, "You okay?" That's kind of a different movement for you, So there's always eyes on there. And usually the community knows that, or we hope they do. So as far as the actual business operations, no issues.
I appreciate your time, and thank you for answering my questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Please.
Mr. Mayor, I have some questions. And my questions actually Commissioner Butnick. Thank you very much for everything.
My pleasure.
I'm going to get a little bit more specific.
Okay.
Car accidents. So I want to talk about the flow of the parking because it is in an alley. So I guess the question is, you have the 7 spots that are coming off of Woodward. So people are going in there. They're looking to park. You know, there's no parking spots there because they're full. So now they make a left-hand turn on the alley to go into the other parking lot. But it's an alley, and so there's a car, so they're heading north, but now there's a car heading south. So what is the plan to manage the gridlock? Because that alley is going both ways, but now you have your cars turning north, cars coming south, and an alley that, although you could squeeze 2 cars, needs to be done very slowly. So what is the plan to manage the flow of traffic, and how do you see that kind of working out?
Sure. Yeah. And, you know, it's one of those things that obviously customer safety is of paramount importance. So we don't like seeing those issues at our facilities. I'm going to turn this one over to Peter to address that. He's
So with traffic flow, do you mind if I approach?
Of course. No. Awesome. Thank you.
You'll have, there's this, and I can't recall the street down here and the street up above.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Woodward is running north and south, so any customers coming here, like you mentioned, would be able to enter into here.
Mm-hmm.
Any customers that would pass this would be able to go up to the street above and come down the alleyway, park into here. And I believe you mentioned folks coming in this way and then coming into the alley. Although I believe when they're coming in through here, they would need to come in down to this street. And so the flow of traffic here will be up one and then over and then down here as well. We recognize that it is double alley, although I believe that there are parking spots. These are existing parking spots and so are these.
Mm-hmm.
And so entering into this existing Hertz lot and entering into these, as well as the other properties to the north, would similarly have the same issues. We don't believe that the actual traffic flow will be of concern, especially because once folks come in here, there'll also be signage along here that there's parking to the back, and the majority of folks will likely be coming in from the top here and coming down and then entering in.
But you're still getting to a point where there are cars heading in opposite directions in a tight alley.
Yes, understandably, and you know, I'm not exactly sure what the speed limit is here, but you know, folks would be coming in and then entering in, although it isn't our hope that, and nor our expectation that there would cause any type of accidents, because this alley is currently running as is now.
With less traffic now. I mean, with less people coming in, but certainly. Have you at all looked at the bike path and the Woodward moves and the project that's going to be happening on Woodward and the bike lanes?
I'm not directly familiar with that, but I would assume that, you know, if we're talking where bike lanes, the movement of bike lanes, I'm a cyclist, you know, so I can respect what you were saying about watch out for cyclists. I'm assuming that's almost buffered bike lanes along the corridor?
It is up until Oak Ridge, which
Okay.
is the corner that you were talking about. And basically, at this point, the plan is that when you get to Oak Ridge, people are going to be using the alley as the bike lane up until they get to Sylvan. So again, the question that I have is not, you know, we have these cars potentially, you know, the cars coming, but also the cyclists. So using the alley. So again, you know, the question of not only preventing the gridlock or the issues with the cars, but also with the bikes, who potentially will be using that more than they are now, especially again, because there are going to be these buffered, thank you, bike lanes up until Oak Ridge. And then again, the kind of plan is to use that alley, to use the alleys, including that one.
Sure. Yeah. And, you know, first off, I think whatever we need to do to offer assurances that that's not going to be an issue, and if that is an issue, that we've got the ability to work through any sort of complaints or anything that might arise, we're happy to do that. The other part of this is, you know, if you've been to one of our stores before, Hazel Park is the closest one. It's a parking lot that's smaller than this one, and we've never had an issue like that. So, you know, we do anticipate.
And I can also add, I mean, Ferndale to the south, has existing or marijuana facilities, right? I'm not going to sugar. We're of one of many other companies, and so the traffic studies that were completed went to those Ferndale locations and monitored the ins and outs of how folks were going to be parking, and that kind of gave us our baseline in terms of how we wanted to address the parking and how many more spots we needed. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that there are a number of other dispensaries that customers may come to between Hazel Park and ours. We're one player. There are others. There are other places that it may have better deals, et cetera. Our customer base, we're hoping that will obviously visit the Pleasant Ridge location, although they'll likely continue visiting the Hazel Park location just because of where that location is in the surrounding areas. And this Pleasant Ridge, this location here would likely bring folks from potentially northern Royal Oak, even up through Troy and whatnot. And it's that customer base that we're anticipating would be coming here.
Okay. I have one last question.
Sure.
And that question is, so you will also be leasing the building to the north, 23634. And in the proposal, it suggests that that will be used for office space and meetings and interviews. But from what I'm seeing, you're giving that parking to the retail space. You're giving the 7 spots to the retail space?
So it's the it's the 5 spots, and it would be for employee parking. The meetings that would be conducted here would be from the staff of the Skyman store, and so the parking would be one and the same. Folks that are meeting there would be the same folks that would likely be coming as customers, although they may be meeting for a job interview, for instance, or we may have an off-site meeting for, I believe in the application materials, we included an incubation program where we might work with a local company and they might be able to kind of use that meeting. We don't intend to use this space for any other third-party activities that would enable more parking to happen there. It would be the same folks that are already parking for the store that would be able to utilize that office space, in that being the employees.
So the employees, I'm assuming, and you mentioned 12 employees, but I'm assuming not all 12 are working at one time. So
Correct. Yep.
are you suggesting that the meetings would just be for, say, the 5 employees working that day?
When we say meetings, we mean like there may be a monthly meeting. This may occur every 3-4 weeks if there's like an interview process that couldn't conduct here. Let's say it's a local partner. Let's say it's a lawn care company that we are considering incubating and meeting with. We wouldn't utilize this space on a daily basis. We wouldn't. The building would remain as is. It would remain technically vacant in that sense, and therefore the parking would be utilized only for the employees. And then any meetings that would occur there would likely, like I said, be on a once a month, once every 3 weeks. It's not an everyday occurrence.
But on those meetings, there will be additional people there. I'm just trying to get clarification that at that point there might be.
Well, those additional people so there would be the employees that would already be working in the store, likely conducting that meeting, and then any other folks that would be there would be able to fit into the customer parking or here, because they are Skyman related.
And Commissioner, I will say too, I mean, there are the amount of flow of customers ebbs and flows during the week. Busy day we know is Friday, for example. So that would be a great day to not schedule anything in that space.
Got it. Excellent. Well, thank you both very much for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have some questions?
One quick follow-up?
Yes,
Just
please.
to one of Katie's questions. On the, I guess, mechanism used to, I guess, estimate, forecast the number of cars. So you use the Ferndale dispensaries and not like similarly sized dispensaries on like a major highway, like a House of Dank, let's say, like that's like an 8-lane Michigan highway. I'm curious.
We use we worked with Jim, and he had mentioned that he wanted certain locations to be in neighboring Ferndale were used, and so we use those locations in addition to our Hazel Park location.
Okay, I was just curious, like what level of involvement, because like the fear that I have is the 13-mile Starbucks, let's say, or House of Dank. If you've ever driven past it, it's, you know, there's 4 lanes going either way on 8 Mile, and there's still like spillover traffic, and they've got a big stinking parking lot. So that's I guess what jumps out versus like the dispensaries tucked away in the corners in Ferndale and east side Pleasant Ridge. So I appreciate that clarification.
Sure.
Thanks.
And Commissioner, I'll just add too, I mean, when we were working with Jim, and thanks again, Jim, for kind of working with us throughout this process, because it was tremendously useful to get us to think ahead of time of some of these concerns. And obviously, Jim stressed very early on in the process that traffic was going to be one of them. So we wanted to have our Hazel Park location folded into the traffic mix, in addition to the list that Jim provided, just because I think it gives a good glimpse at, Sky Mint is a recognizable name. We've worked hard for that, but that folded that into that traffic analysis as well.
No, it's really just to add on to Katie's. So, sorry, Commissioner Perry.
Okay.
Yes,
Ma'am?
please.
Thank you guys for coming in and for your work on this. Obviously, as you can tell, traffic and congestion is, one of our biggest concerns. We're living in an area where that is one of the biggest concerns before this establishment that we're hearing from our residents. So we take all this stuff very seriously, and we want to see what could be really concrete specific and solutions for some of these things. So a lot of what Commissioner Schmier hit on of talking about the gridlock that could be created or the chaos in the parking lot, I think is one of our biggest is a very big worry. And then if especially as things might get chaotic, like the overflow that might go onto Woodward or onto Oak Ridge or Woodward Heights, we want to see, do you have a way, do you guys have a mechanism, a team or whatever who we could work, who you would work on that problem? Because that is, as you were mentioning in the operating agreement, we were talking about, there's the parking and circulation complaints. And so, it says, the applicant agrees that the complaint will be addressed through reasonable accommodations in a timely manner, which is great, but it's specific, that's pretty vague. And so we want to know sort of how, is this a problem you've handled in other locations, or you have sort of a strategy of how you could handle that? Because the Hazel Park store, I went over there. It's a lovely building. It's a really nice parking lot. It's this very straightforward parking lot. And this is more of a, Woodward parking lot situation, which is very sort of different and unique.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for going over to the Hazel Park store and that compliment on there, because, we do try very hard to make very aesthetically pleasing storefronts.
Very handsome.
That said, to get straight to your question, we intentionally left that provision vague in order to evolve if need be. That's one of those things where, obviously we do want to resolve complaints in a reasonable time. Every single store we've opened, we've got nearly a 5-star review. I think it's usually 4.9 or higher, pretty darn close. This all plays into that reputation, and if there are issues, that reflects negatively upon us, which is not at all what we want. As far as specifics, we do have an internal safety and security team that would be an excellent resource in addition to myself or a store manager that could work to address any of those issues. Every other location we've never seen issues like that, and potentially if this lot is different, maybe we need to take a different approach. And that's one of those things where we've already got the tools in place to do that. Our safety and security team, retired or former police officers, very public safety oriented, and we all talk constantly. So that's one of those things where we would all work together for, working on a solution.
How many security people are and safety people are on the premises, helping at a time usually?
Sure. Well, it depends. It depends on local requirements, and it depends on local desires. I mean, we do everything that we can to have ears and eyes everywhere, and then have access to local law enforcement. So, it just depends. That's probably the best answer. It depends on need.
So I think because it feels like, and I think, we all saw it over at Live, especially during the pandemic and, when it was curbside and drive up, is a lot of security and different staffing was out in the parking lot in Orangeville helping, navigate that. I mean, it still was it seemed like it still was problematic, and it really got backed up. And so this is one of those concerns where we're all just like, it just concerns us. Then with So I guess what I would want, it's like with the safety and security, it's like just really having some sort of a strategic solution, really looking at what this parking could create, because it's all sort of just an idea at this point. So,
Well, and I will say, the operating agreement, we've agreed not to incorporate curbside. And that's one of those things, I mean, obviously we would love to go curbside someday. I will just say that right now. I mean, curbside, and take this into consideration too, it accounts for about 25% of our business at stores. So that could factor into a lower volume here, which I think is reasonable to anticipate. Curbside is one of those things that I think customers are getting accustomed to that. They may go to other locations in the area that have curbside services. We still think this is a great opportunity. As far as specific solutions, I think it's really circumstantial. We don't anticipate issues, but it's one of those things that if issues arise, we want to come to terms as far as an agreement on how to solve them. Our license depends on it.
Right.
And you as, an official body can revoke that license if there's issues. So, if there's issues, I can't say it enough, we want to work together. To offer you anything more concrete on that, I would need to have a crystal ball.
okay. With the operational issues, it's sort of the same statement of, if there are operational complaints that, it will be handled in a timely manner. So I guess that's sort of what we'll look for too, is sort of like how, strategically, like if we're really getting a lot of overflow and backup, how, because we don't want this to have an impact, like almost, I don't know, it's like, we don't want it to have a negative impact, obviously, on the community. So that's what we're sort of pushing for. And looking for, like, how can we solve that? So you have the 25 parking spaces, and then, so there are 12 employees, and so you're saying there are probably 5 there at a time?
Yeah, 5 is a good number.
Okay. And one of the things in your operations statement was, you talked about how, of course you're hoping to grow and that the business will go well. So as that, as that grows, you would have to add employees, and then, at that point, you also have to add parking spaces. And so is there any, as you guys have been looking at, all of the site and the sites around you, are there other options that you've found for additional parking spaces?
Peter, you want to comment on that one?
So the property to the south is the Hertz lot. There are other available parking spots here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, the landlord is only going to be leasing these 10 to the applicant, although the property itself will be owned by the same that will own the north and the same that will own the physical property itself. All 3 will be the same landlord. And so in the future, if additional parking was required out of that Hertz lot, it would be used from that.
Are you guys purchasing the Hertz lot, or is someone is Hertz going to still be in business?
So the property from the north, this middle parcel and the south will all be owned by the same entity as a one holdco. FLMIRE 22 LLC, and then District Park will be leasing it from there. The Hertz lot will likely continue for the time being, although, like Nathan said, we don't know what the future is for the parking here. I mean, we could be a year from now and there may not be any parking concerns and the flow of traffic may be fine. And if not, we could address that. Obviously, like we mentioned in the local operation management agreement, the city has the right and the ability to revoke this license at any point if those parking concerns are ongoing and continuing.
Let me interject. Couldn't it go the other way, though, too? Like, will Hertz ever take those spots back from you?
No, because the current lease is for these 10 spots for a term of 5 and then a term of another 5 with an ability to renew that. It can be quite difficult to get into 20, 30-year leases. Sure. So we've left it as a 5-year with an extension of another 5 and then in the ability to renew as well. But no, because this would be an exclusive use to only the applicant.
Okay. Thank you. And then with that alley, Commissioner Schmier, expressed concerns of, you know, of the conflicts that may happen there. And then there's an apartment complex also that has its parking off that alley, and there are homes that are really nearby that are in Ferndale. So, you know, that's one of those things where, you know, we might want to look at how to soften the blow to them, because, you know, like you said, this has been an unoccupied space, and even when it was occupied, there were quieter types of retailers and businesses in there. So do you guys have any thoughts on how to help make this not have as heavy of an impact on those homes
Sure.
and residents?
Well, I mean, being a public meeting, you know, I don't know if there's any residents here tonight, but if there are, I mean, we'd love to hear what any concerns would be. I think that starts there. You know, we're open-minded. I will say that. You know, you guys know your community the best. And we're here as someone who wants to enter your community and become a corporate resident here. You know, if it requires more signages, anything that we can do for direction purposes, we're all yours.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank
And then, does this signage compare, how does it compare to the Hazel Park sign that is on the building there? Do you know?
So I think this goes to the next level. You know, you go through Hazel Park, it's not heavy on signage. And maybe Peter could discuss just
Sure.
the signages
You
that
mean
we're
directional
proposing.
signage,
Yep.
Commissioner?
Or the Skymint sign.
I mean, the
Skymint
Skymint sign, but directional signage is great too.
So the directional signage will be all throughout. And I would say comparison to Hazel Park is more signage, although not so much that it would confuse patrons that are going. I
Right.
think we kind of took some time and worked with the architect to build what would make sense, right? Nothing that is an overflow where they're like, well, where am I going? It's very cognizant signs that kind of make sense. So here would be customer only, additional parking in the back. I believe that these would be located parking as well. And then here, and so essentially kind of directing folks and doing that. And we're obviously very open to modifying those signage at
Yeah.
any time prior to opening. I mean, throughout, I believe Jim mentioned final site plan approval, I think, would be required in this. And so if other directional signage would want to be used, we'd be more than, we kind of just put together a plan of what we felt would be adequate in terms of that. And then in terms of the Skymint sign, it would be similar to this because for branding purposes.
So that looks like, I think it was almost maybe double the size of the one in Hazel Park.
The Skymint lettering itself,
Yeah.
that I'm not exactly sure if it's double or so.
Right, and I don't expect you, that's,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. Just visually, like, so I guess we want to maybe discuss, like, if it could be more subtle. Is it the same, like, sort of backlit subtle thing versus like a front lit?
Yeah, that's what we're proposing, and you know, I understand there's site review steps as well, so we're happy to address that at an appropriate time as you feel.
Then with, and I don't know if this is actually doable with our own city ordinance or with whatever, is potentially putting a Skymint sign, if this all happens, on that Hertz awning on the south face of it, just to help also call, so people don't get past the building, and then see that, this is where some parking is.
That canopy is in Ferndale, so.
Oh, so what?
So I can't answer that.
Just across the board.
He's the wrong person to answer the question.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is signage on Woodward above those slanted spots?
Right here.
Yes, or above, because it's covered. I don't know if it will stay covered, but parking this way, is that something?
With an arrow?
Or even if it's got a Skymint just logo, that makes people aware of if that's
You mean
their
like
destination.
Right here? I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah.
get too close to the TV. It's just helpful.
It's okay.
Yeah, so like, yes, we would be able to do that, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Although it would need to stay on the Pleasant Ridge side.
I'm going to ask a question that
Sure.
might be a little unfair, it might be a little late, but are you amenable to redesigning the parking?
I think we're open-minded. If there's a better way to do it, we welcome that.
So with the combined ownership, I think there's an opportunity to unfragment the parking. As I sit here and look at this,
Better for you and us.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to, I can't measure because this isn't to scale, but I've been, I think we have some opportunity.
Okay.
That'll fit. That'll get us a near equivalent or equivalent amount of parking. That will, I think, be a lot more legible for users of the site. And I think that listening to the concerns about the traffic circulation and what happens if this bank of parking that's not directly connected to this one, that's not directly connected to this one, I think we can solve that.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, we're all yours. You know, public safety, parking, access to the facility, customer safety, all priorities of ours. So,
Yeah.
you know, we would love to have that discussion if there's the ability to do it, yeah.
I only have a couple more, sorry. Then,
You're taking care of all of mine. I only have 2 left now.
well, there's one of yours, I want to make sure that you're going to ask, and if you don't, I'll circle back. But the hours of operation, we have like at 10, what have been the normal hours of operation you guys have been using with your?
It's different in every community. You know, Pleasant Ridge is proposing, say, for example, allowing them on Sundays. Some communities don't. We've applied for a license just recently in a community quite a ways north of here that doesn't allow them on Sundays. You know, I would say 10 to 9, just like the city is offering, is pretty in alignment with what we like to do.
Okay. Because I was wondering if we want to give some relief to like the apartments and the residents who are right there and stuff too. So with so what would you say, and I think you hit on it, but I want to ask again, what would you say is sort of the brand of SkyMint? Like what level of customer? Like are you the premier and the most expensive? Are you the cheapest? Are you the what?
Sure. So every product that we offer is premium cannabis. We have our normal tier, which is premium, but then our upper tier, which we would consider ultra premium. It's our DNA brand. I would say that we appeal probably, you know, to the higher end kind of customer spectrum. And you know, we're not a deli style sort of dispensary where you go in and you get, you know, everything's out almost in the air and they weigh it out there and provision it there. I mean, everything's prepackaged. You know, we're trying to go for that high end clientele.
Great, thank you. And then with the, you know, having said that there, you know, maybe there are car accidents and stuff in the parking lots and things like that. I mean, we've had those here in our city parking lot too. But I guess, so my question that sort of piggybacks on that is the odor in the parking lot. Is that something that becomes very, you know, because A, we know it's illegal to smoke and drive, and B, it's not intoxicated, what's the word?
Under the influence?
Yeah, under the influence, thank you. And drive and things like that. So it should be illegal. So is that being policed by your security?
So one, I will say I've been up to a lot of stores. I've never come in and actually smelled an odor. And I always make sure that whenever I'm giving tours of elected officials or anyone on our sites that I ask them, hey, can you smell anything? We've never had an odor complaint at any one of our stores.
Parking lots or anything? Too.
Ever. Anywhere on the property, ever. I've never actually, smoking or any kind of use of the products is not allowed at all in the facility anywhere. If our manager sees it, they'll address it. If the security sees it, they'll alert the manager will address it.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Great. So I am down to actually 3 questions.
Okay.
And thanks for your time this evening.
My pleasure.
I actually went to your Hazel Park location last night. I
Good.
spoke to your store manager, Carly. She was great.
Good.
It gave me an opportunity to just evaluate how people were using the parking lot, the lobby area, and the store area. It's always usually 3 areas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nicely run. And it's so funny that you mentioned Urban Outfitters, because I think I mentioned it to a couple of you. I walked in and I thought...
It's got a little vibe, doesn't it?
I thought, this is not Apple Store, this is Urban Outfitters, was sort of my...
Yep.
So I felt that going in, and I think she told me that one had been remodeled within the last 2 or 3 months to sort of bring it into the brand theme, which seemed to work for your customers. And So that was great. Just a couple of quick questions. If I was to choose one of your locations to visit other than Hazel Park, which one is closest to what you would expect this one to be like?
Oh, well,
Because I'm willing to drive anywhere in Michigan to experience what you're intending to build here.
this is a very, just because of the space, you know, and we wanted to draw a space that has ample parking and then, you know, kind of makes the space unique. I mean, it's a unique property. Like all of you have mentioned, it's on a very busy street. We're trying to be visible. Usually we do kind of a Scandinavian barn theme, and that's the trend as far as where we're going right now. There's a couple of stores around Lansing that if anyone's interested in coming to visit those, I'd be happy to meet you there and show you around. I'd be happy to bring you to our cultivation facilities nearby. I mean, we've got a lot to show off, and I'm happy to show it off. So, yeah, if you want to head over to Lansing or Ann Arbor, you know, that's another one that I think would be a good one, too.
Are there any of them that are operating at roughly 200 customers a day today?
So, no. And again, that's a generous kind of figure. I mean, it could be 175, maybe even a little bit lower, just depending. So, and that's on the busiest day, you know, at that busiest time, which would be on a
April
Friday
20th.
potentially. That's a busy day. You know, we were excited to see, and this is maybe something just to know from a local revenue generating perspective, compared from 2020, which was the first year that the state treasury compiled excise tax revenue share payments to local units. That's doubled for 2021, the disbursement that was there, so 26,400. And then if you want to look at those April 20th numbers, 2020 compared to 2022, it's gone up by 5 times. And that's not necessarily more customer volume necessarily. That plays a role in it, but it's also pricing and you know, the amount that goes to the state. So we anticipate that, you know, that figure as prices fluctuates will fluctuate a little bit, but I think it's going to grow, you know, somewhat progressively here.
It's funny, at the Hazel Park location last night, I mentioned to Carly, I did not smell anything in the storefront area and nothing in the parking lot area, but a little bit in the lobby. And I think it's because that's the only place people linger a little bit. There's a form that you have to consent to before you walk in order to agree not to use the product in the store, but that didn't mean they didn't use it before they got there. So that's the only place I smelled it. But along those lines, are you intending to have chairs in this location?
So, you know, I'm not familiar with the exact floor concept that we're going with just this yet. Some of our spaces have a lounge space, being that this is a little bit of a smaller location. If there are chairs, it's going to be minimal. You know, our Big Rapid store, for example, is probably our biggest store. That's got a whole area, and I've never actually seen anyone sit there. But one other thing about Urban Outfitters is Summer Ransom Cleveland, our president of store retail, kind of was the one who got this movement coming back to reinvigorate vinyl usage, you know, records. And that's something that we've tried, but, you know, people don't tend to linger in our stores. So even if we put couches, yeah, it's just people get their stuff and they're out.
Really, that's my question. As you've probably gathered, we've not actually had a lot of questions about marijuana. We've had a ton of questions about traffic and parking flow and all of that, and chairs are a parking flow question.
Yeah. Well, and that's a spot where people can linger, you know, and, you know, where we have offered them, I think they go underutilized. Or just not utilized at all.
I think we'd be interested in making sure that your customers had an enjoyable 10 to 15 minute experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, please.
So related to the tour, let's say, or like the connect, like where would that be and how could we set that up? Because that would be something I'd like to further explore.
Sure, absolutely. We'd love to have you. I can either work with Jim. You know, I will leave my personal contact information again. So I know we don't want to get into kind of open meetings issues by having you all at once or violating some sort of a quorum. But if you all want to come, set up different individual tours, come in small groups, that's all fine. You can just reach directly out to me and I'll get that set up.
Okay, let's pin that. And then another thing you brought up more than once is just experience working with the police, and like I'm sure all stores have. I mean, if you sell jeans or if you sell cannabis, you'll deal with the police. But like, how does your store deal with it, and like, what does that kind of look like?
So our director of store and safety security, Jen Brown, likes to reach out. Local inspections with BFS, CRA, Cannabis Regulatory Agency, local law enforcement. She coordinates all those. So she has a direct connection point with local law enforcement whenever we have a store.
Okay. Because, I mean, our police are busy enough with their own stuff. I mean, obviously, they would be there, but
Sure.
we don't want to add more to their plate.
Yeah, and
So there's
well, and when I talk, potential need for law enforcement or any issues at any of our locations, and I know I mentioned car accidents. I mean, we're talking not high-speed crashes. We're talking someone just bumped into somebody. So we don't have the type of business that just is a red flag for public safety or law enforcement, or really elicits a lot of law enforcement involvement.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay, you got my questions. Thank
Yeah.
you.
My pleasure.
Is there anything that you have for us? You had mentioned community involvement and other things. Is there something that you need from us in order to help people understand what your brand is and how it might fit into our community? Because it is important that, and we say this for any business that comes to Pleasant Ridge, we want to make sure that it just sort of fits in and sort of meets the flavor of the community.
Oh, absolutely. So, we're an agricultural company, which I think is interesting. The gentleman that was here talking about challenging you all to a gourd grow off, that's a pretty cool thing. I worked for the Department of Agriculture just a couple of years ago before this, and we're excited about that. I know we have a 1,000-acre farm kind of up in the Huron-Manistee National Forest area where we're experimenting with some outdoor grows. Agriculture is a thing. We can partner with folks on that. Peter was talking about, potentially utilizing responsibly, of course, on days where we're maybe low volume at the store, but maybe we can incubate something like that. Maybe there's a community garden someplace that we can help fund. I mean, the sky's really the limit. When we come into a community, and I get, hey, maybe I'm not with the company forever, but whenever we have a store, there's a succession plan. There's a way that we can communicate, okay, here are the commitments that we've made in the community, here's the relationships, and then here's how we can maybe take that to the next level. So I think it's just kind of an evolving relationship where, we want to understand what the community needs, and we can give financial donations, we can give volunteer time, and we do all of those things.
Okay. Great. Is there anything else from anyone?
No, thank you.
Not at this point.
Good. All right. Anything from the folks in our great audience this evening?
My only question would just be
please.
the impact on Christy
Thank
Hand,
you.
8 Oxford. My only question would be the impact on Woodward Heights traffic, which is already a concern. And I know that you're studying, so you
Great.
don't have the answer.
That's valid.
Yes.
Valid
All right,
question.
thank you.
One thing,
Yes,
I've
please.
had the honor, excuse me. I've had the honor to work with this gentleman here since 2017 at the Michigan State Senate. He is who we say he is. He's a great guy.
And just for the record, your name and
Yeah, well, excuse me.
Again.
Bobby Lawrence from State Senator Marshall Bullock's office.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, thank you for your time this evening.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's time for a motion of some kind.
So, Mayor, think you may make a motion?
Yes, please.
I think these questions have been amazing, and, we appreciate all the answers, and you've given us a lot to think about and a lot to take back to the residents. So I think, what I would like to propose, and I think everybody's sort of at this place that, that it's, we postpone so we can take this to the residents and make sure that the public has a chance to really look at all of this too. So I move to postpone until the future, I'm sorry, let me start again. I move to postpone until a future meeting to provide the applicant time to provide supplemental information in response to the concerns raised by the City Commission this evening.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All right. Any other comments from anyone?
Yeah, Mayor, I
Yes,
just want to say
please.
thanks again. I appreciate you both being here and going through it with us. So
Thanks for your
thank you.
Yeah, everything looks, your application looks really good. In fact, I was joking with our city manager, it's a little less entertaining than some applications we've received. But we got through it, and I appreciate all the work that you put in the last 6 months. We know that we have some work to do with the community and some further questions to ask of you just to make sure that everything's buttoned up.
Sure. Well, yeah, and we try to keep them simple and concise because we know as reviewing bodies, you've got hundreds, if not thousands of pages to go through. So,
Right.
But please, we'll stay in touch. If there's any additional information, just let us know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Let's vote.
let's vote.
Sorry.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Motion carries. Other business.
Mayor, I just wanted to say congrats to our stand-in city clerk today. Nice work. Kudos. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's right.
Thank you. Did you have anything, Jim?
A couple quick updates.
Before are you city managering it or
Yes.
other businessing?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped right past the city manager's report.
Oh, was that first?
It was
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry.
Which is fine.
Go ahead.
Please do.
Okay. An update on the Sakwa, the water main, last
Great.
week's surprise issue of the week. So I don't know if you've noticed when you're driving on Woodward by the zoo parking tower when you're heading south on surface level Woodward, there's been water kind of shooting out of the tree lawn there. And Royal Oak went and looked at it and said, nope, it's not ours. And so Sakwa has their 48-inch transmission main that runs right underneath there. It's about 15 feet deep, going down to get underneath the freeway, encased in 7 feet of concrete encasing the outside of the pipe. So it was kind of a big deal. Sakwa went to investigate, and they were going to shift us over to our emergency supply, which is up off of 696 near Oakdale. When they switched to emergency supply last week, our water pressure dropped to like 10 pounds. It's normally at 60 at our supply meter by Oxford. So they quickly, after the phones rang nonstop for about 15 minutes, we got back on the main supply, and they found out that there was a valve closed at 10 and Scotia. So water wasn't getting to the emergency supply because Huntington Woods had closed the valve and left it closed. So it took 3 or 4 days to figure that out. And then they've been investigating, and as it turns out, they think it's an issue with zoo water. It could be a sprinkler line. So if you want to talk about much ado about nothing. So, I mean, it's good news. They don't have to excavate and repair a 48-inch transmission main that's 20 feet below grade.
Right.
Yay.
Which is a fantastic, and we're members of SACWA, so that would be a shared expense we would have to bear through that organization. So
It's a sprinkler line.
it's we think, or something.
It's the Wallaby.
It's, I was gonna say.
Right.
Wallaby's been missing.
Yeah.
He's suspect.
Yeah, troublesome wallaby. So hopefully we'll be back tomorrow on our normal supply. But we've been on our emergency supply
Oh,
now
really?
since last Thursday. So it's been fine. So we got back to the pressures we expected the first time around. Woodward Heights, we're having our staff kickoff meeting with the Woodward Heights consultant this Thursday. And so we'll be just getting that going. So residents should expect to start to hear some information on that, about how that process will go and how they can participate. So stay tuned. And then the Woodward Streetscape, again, we're inching towards that kicking off. So we'll be under construction probably maybe end of July, probably sometime in August.
So it looks like we'll actually get it done this year.
It does.
That's great.
Yes, so construction should be done this year on our segment of the Woodward Streetscape from basically from this building up to 696. So that's good news. There's been just an endless series of issues and things to work through on that. So
It has been
It's
that
big.
year, and we said that last year.
yeah, it has been that year.
Yeah.
So those are the only things I had, unless there's any questions or anything that the commission has for me.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll jump back to other business. Was there any other business?
Yes. Mayor.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So, first of all, Commissioner Smear and I were walking and we were discussing the whole thing of how exciting it is that we have our own street sweeper. And this is quite a beautiful beast of a street sweeper. So we thought the street sweeper maybe needs a name. And so we want to have a name the street sweeper contest kind of thing. And we'll come up with, we'll put information out, which will be how to get your votes and your ideas, how to enter submissions. But just watch for that. So just think about naming the street sweeper. It's a beautiful orangey color. And yeah, exactly. And it's very, he has some good old, like, just some good energy. He's lived a life. So something to think about. We'll get pictures out so everybody can make sure they know who the street sweeper is. The other thing is what is it? Oh, so I do have a question for you. I'm sorry. So Consumers Energy has been out and about, you see them on streets like through Ferndale and everything too. I was having a hard time getting out to Woodward today because they're everywhere. But what do you know? I know it's just ongoing, and there are porta-johns everywhere.
Every day is a new surprise.
Yeah, and I have been getting great new mail updates from
Yes,
them
yes.
frequently, and they even called me in response to a call I put into them.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And they've been generally responsible. As residents reach out to us, we do have contacts over there, and we've been able to resolve issues as they arise.
Great.
Their schedule is their schedule, and they're replacing the gas main on Oakland Park, Poplar Park, and maybe Woodside Park. And then they'll be going over, and they'll be on the east side on Sylvan in Indiana. They'll be, so
okay.
you're next. They're also doing a service line replacement project, and that's scattered throughout the city. So they've got two separate but concurrent projects going. One where they're replacing mains and the service lines, much like we will be, and using much the same process that we will be. And then the other one is just replacing some service lines they've identified.
Okay.
So, this is the original 1924 gas line across the street from our original 1924 water main. So it's time for those to be replaced.
Yeah, she did tell me, because they did have to come into my house and they snaked or camera'd or whatever the sewer line because they needed to know where that falls so they don't dig into it. But she said at some point they will also probably have to dig into my yard and everything too, and that they'll, of course, do the repair on that, but or restoration. But they look busy. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're busy, and they travel in packs.
Yeah. They do. They're big packs. And the equipment's huge. I was watching them dig up there at Ridge and Oakland Park Boulevard. It's like major stuff. So that was cool. Thank you. And then the only other thing I wanted to do, and I'm sorry I didn't do it while Brian was here from Plant Moran, is just thank him because, I have worked with him for the past 10 years. And what Plant Moran has brought to the table for us has been this consistent voice, this historical voice too, that they really understand. And, I've appreciated sort of the consistency and sort of the professionalism they have always really brought to, the work they've done with the city. And I think it's been very important. So that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to bring up, and I know Commissioner Perry posted today, but we have conversation with commissioners.
Thank you.
This Thursday, Gainsborough Park, starting at 7 p.m. And I just want to, for everyone who is here and everyone who is watching, to, tell your neighbors, spread the word, because this is a really good time to come out and talk about not only the CAC and the new billing and how that is going to be paid and how that will affect individual people, but also talking about SkyMint and this application. So it's a really good time to get out. There's a lot of things happening right now. And I want to encourage conversation, encourage questions, and just really get the conversation going. So please spread the word.
Yeah, tell your neighbors. 'Cause
Tell your neighbors.
We know everyone's not on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And we don't bite, right? I mean, and part of this conversation came from the discussion of having like a welcome for the new residents, right? So we wanted to make it more inclusive for all residents, really. But yeah, so if you're new, please come.
Yep.
Definitely.
It'll be down at the Gainsborough shelter area. And if it rains, we have indoor and covered spaces, so it's all good.
Absolutely.
We'll be there.
All right, I think we're ready to adjourn.
You think?
You have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
I'll support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Excellent. Kirsten, good job.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Kirsten.
you.
Yeah, Kirsten, great job.